welcome to KCC 30. We have a very, as Dorai put it, a cozy group here. And, 10 people, and I think Panda will also join. So, yes. And today's highlight is going to be the Unconference on personal productivity tools. Why, what, and how you use them. And it's going to be anchored by our Dorai. And I think Dorai needs no introduction. He's CEO iMorph, and he has made several presentations in several venues, including in Cognizant, where he spoke about social media and its impact. And he has been mentoring a lot of young entrepreneurs, and he's very active in that front. So I pass it on to Dorai, and as Ramya told, we can have a pass-a-thon kind of thing where we all involved. And then, so over to you, Dorai. And Ramasamy just called me and wanted to convey his greetings. He's out of station actually. So.
Hello. Okay, good. So we have 4 mics here. So the procedure. So this is not a typical unconference in the sense that in a typical unconference there's a much larger crowd. We all go decide on what topics we want to talk about, and then people say, okay, I'm going to talk about this topic, and then people just go and join this. But since we are a small group here, I think we'll make, even as we expand, we'll force more people to come around this table. We can do, I have a couple of ideas. We can do 2 options. One is that we can just pass the mic around and we can do this round robin stuff, and then we can keep on going around till we get tired and stop. We have a topic to anchor the conversation, but feel free to kind of, go sideways, up, down, whatever you want. I was always curious about what do people use for personal, even though it's called personal productivity, you don't have to think that it's I use it at home kind of thing. Even when you are at work, people, not everybody uses the same tools. So we can kick off the conversation. You can just pick, we can do 1 tool, the second, or if you want to talk about 2-3 tools, then we can go there. Feel free to, jump in, have conversation, have questions. We have the advantage of a small crowd. That means all of us get to talk a lot. So with that, I'm going to pass on, Yeah, even that. So let's maybe do an intro, talk a couple of sentences about what your work is and what you're interested in outside work and what kind of tools you use, and then we can go from there to that. Feel free to take some 5 minutes each. We'll do 1 round itself will be 50 minutes, so then we can probably do a little bit more.
Hey, I'm Raj from Cognizant. So my view of personal productivity tool is closely related with work. Anything that's less painful to do a repetitive task. So that's what I define as a productivity tool. So I like to split 2 kinds. So whichever worked for me and whichever that didn't work for me. So things that worked is the text expander, a tool from Lifehacker site, and there's something called a pure text. So which pastes just the text instead of the formatting. So when we do an Excel and doc, so that's very handy. So I use it a lot. And mind maps, few mind maps have helped me a lot in terms of productivity. And things that didn't work is to-do lists. So I have tried a lot of to-do lists. So Remember the Milk is one which kept me on hook for quite some time. And few project management tools like Kanban, Lean Kit, Kanban I tried, so that didn't work actually. So I'm still trying to find something out.
Hi, I'm Brajendranandan Panda. I really don't use any sort of online tools for productivity management or anything. I do whatever is required to get done. That's all.
So do you tool can be even your calendar, your
not even
diary,
paper, pencil.
Okay, if you consider non-software, yes, I do use a post-it sometimes to remind me out of some things. That mundane things, not the important things. The important things are always in the brain. They remain secure over there. And I found it useful not to have a tool in front of me, because then it directs my work, directs my thinking also, it directs, and then I'm not able to focus on the bigger picture. Yes, precisely. I come from a creative background. I'm a designer. I cannot use a productive tool to align my work to something. And yes, of course, if it is required for my work, then it's a tool. It's productive at certain times, but it's going back to the first principle of things.
Go back. This is getting interesting. So let me take, because we are recording the conversation, so I think everyone should take some. So if we, with your indulgence, so how do people communicate with you on what they want to design?
They send a mail, that's all.
So mail is a tool.
They send a mail, I go talk to them, find out what exactly they need.
So you never do any work where you can't meet people face to face?
Or I rather prefer not to, but
in case you have to.
in case I have to, I'll see. I don't know. I haven't.
So mail is the only tool so far I have heard. So they send you a mail, but how do they express, like I want to design a web page, for example, or I want to design, let's say, an interaction design. Like an application form for a resume, let's say. You are designing that, or I'm come to you as an interaction designer.
All right.
So what are the tools? You must be using some tools.
See, to get a resume on paper into a physical format, I might use whatever is required, say Photoshop to Illustrator to InDesign to Microsoft PowerPoint, whatever is required to get it done in that format. But my productivity is not in the skill, it's in the part of understanding people and translating their thought, their mental picture into paper.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll ask a question, and assuming that you need to scale, it is not just, what's your name, sir?
Brajendranandan Panda. Panda is good.
Panda.
Yeah.
So you want to make clone 10 more, and your business grows, or team grows, your organization grows, right?
Yeah, that's one thing I have not focused on, or I have not thought of.
So in that sense, I think what I feel that he has the, from an NLP standpoint, he has the unconscious competence. He doesn't know he knows the content, but he's using it unconsciously. But unless otherwise you codify, demystify that, turn that into certain formula or certain things, he cannot make more such people.
Precisely. Yeah. That is why we always, as designers, prefer case-to-case basis of things. We don't generally work on scaling.
Yeah, I have some points when I come to my round, and I'll mention that.
Yeah, tell me.
I don't know the name of tools, but I can actually talk to you from a concept perspective. Right?
Okay.
So new patterns are emerging. New patterns emerge, right?
Okay.
Right. For example, you are a designer. Are you a visual designer, interaction, or
I don't distinguish myself between
You
anything.
don't distinguish.
Yeah,
Okay.
I prefer not to.
Okay. After designing, do you also get into development HTML, CSS?
No. See, again here you are restricting my skills to just designing a web page or something. Why can't I just design a system? Why can't I design the government?
My only question is to understand the scope of work that you do within your organization. No,
I don't put a scope on my work. I do whatever is required to.
Okay, first you're saying you're going to talk to your customer, right, to understand the needs, right?
Yes.
Then you assimilate those thoughts and you put...
No, I assimilate then and there. Understanding his...
That's fine.
Yeah.
Each one has your own personal process, right?
Yeah.
Of going about doing things, right? That's unique for an individual, right?
Precisely.
There's a set thing from an organizational perspective as to what is the efficient way for that kind of a work. That's a top-down way of actually defining for a given type of work, okay?
Yes.
In an abstracted form, but individual assimilate, assume a
different,
particular
yeah.
process and go about doing it in their own style. That's fine, right?
Yes.
You do it in a particular way. Some people use wireframes and then go about doing visual design. You probably do it in a different way. That's fine. In your own way, and I'm sure there are certain tools, creativity. For example, you come with some creative design, right? How did you coming up with that particular design? It's a mashup from a thought process where you had actually seen multiple designs where they have been actually used in a different context and different scenarios, and probably what you will try to actually do that is to apply it in this particular current context because you feel that it is very pertinent here, right?
Okay.
There are tools even in that context available which will help the designers do that to come up with an efficient design which might be very apt for the current context.
Could be.
So what I'm saying is these are personal productivity tools which can actually kindle creativity.
You're talking about the organizational.
No, what I'm saying is there are personal productivity tools which can also kindle creativity not only to improve the productivity of work.
So, but
all I'm saying is it can also do things which is not necessarily to do with productivity, can also do things which can lead to innovation.
No, it's okay. We'll listen. I think it's good to get some point of view. Yeah. So he thinks he uses Adobe, Photoshop and all, but he doesn't consider it as a productivity tool. Okay. So I think the definition there is a slight difference.
Okay.
When you say personal productivity, maybe that is the wrong title. He's saying, tools for work is also fine.
I have one point to
add up to it. Whenever you talk about creativity, whenever you do a creative kind of work, there's always a lot of iterations happen from your initial phase of thinking to the final deliverables which you give to the customer. So during the phase, whatever you try becomes your kind of productivity thing only. This is what I have tried earlier. This is not what I have tried. Even customer when gets back to you saying that this is what you have, can you do it for me? You can always reply back that this is what has been tried earlier by me, keeping those as a references for you, for most of the customers whenever they come up. So those things. That's what I am doing. So
No, I might sketch it out on a paper, I might do that sort of things, that's there. That's a representation of my thought. See, the point is this, that my experience, my own history, my own learning till date, from the day I was born, becomes a part of my productivity tool, if that is what you define it as.
hello everybody, my name is Bhavit Kumar Tripathi. I'm a research scholar at Department of Management Studies. I'm working on knowledge management systems right now. So I have 3 years of work experience. So let me divide the components into two parts. As a student or a researcher, we are using a lot of productivity tools, and being on business development side also, we have used a lot of personality productivity tools. Starting with the research scholar perspective, we use a software called LaTeX, which is a kind of code-based platform wherein you can type your thesis, maintain your bibliographic references, and as and when you make some changes, it's like a kind of master template where you make the changes, the overall changes happen. It helps you a lot to help you to write the thesis properly in the required format. As and when you can change the format as per the journals and all those things, so you need not have to every time keep typing the thing. That's the first kind of tool which we use. And secondly, what I personally use is whenever I do a research on the Google also, whatever keywords I use whenever I do a research, I used to preserve those keywords. So that way it helped me to reduce the duplicity of the work and redundancy of the work, that with this keyword whether I have searched or not, because there is always a kind of doubt in our researcher whether with this keyword I have searched it or not. And thirdly, as you said, those post-it kind of, there is a software also there where you can post it on the. So what we do it, we basically design the targets for the day or for the week, that this is what I wanted to do, and based on that we try to tentatively follow that schedule. This is the research kind of aspect telling. And coming back to the business development where I work, first of all, in business development also you have to see that what's the priority right now. When you have to make a call, how long you can wait to respond to your customer. Even the information like the person is out of his office for so and so time to so and so time. So that means you need not have to communicate that person at that particular time. So that way even I used to maintain Excel sheet kind of thing where I used to rate it. Say the rating is 1 to 2 up to 10 ka scale. Wherever I see that this is not very important for me, I'll delay the thing because I can manage by next week also. That way I used to manage my emails also. When I need to respond to the customer, when I need not have to respond to the customer, and based on the activities also. Whenever I am needed at the shop floor for the delivery of the product, I'll be at the shop floor rather than being office. So that way I used to manage my commute, say I need to commute close to 1.5 hours to reach my facility. So that way I used to prioritize the whole things in an Excel sheet by rating them as on a 1 to 10 scale, so that I can give preference to whatever is needed, and I can even give rating to the conferences, or not even conferences, the daily meetings which I need to undergo. So I can give proper appointments to my senior as well. Rather than senior calling me up, I'll give him a proper time. I'll come at that particular time to meet you, so that manage my productivity.
Hello everyone. Systematically, I don't use any tools to increase my productivity, but personally, yes, I do. But it's in the form of hard copy, like sticky notes and notepad and Outlook calendar. That would be increasing my productivity. That's it.
Hey, I'm Chandru. So for me at work, I used my whiteboard. The thing is, like, I tried to using my Outlook mailbox, like keeping those reminders and all those things. But keep on, if it pops up, I mean, I keep on snooze it and then I ignore it. But whiteboard, I mean, for some critical tracking, I use it, and then I have placed it in such a way that it is always visible to me where I have seated. So it constantly reminds me to do that, and that's one thing I use. And at personal side, that I use my mobile phones effectively. In case of I need to scan any documents, no more I don't go and wait in the queue for the scanning. I use my mobile phones to take a photo, and then there are some softwares available to convert into a PDF, and then it really helped me even at my workplace. And then as you mentioned that sticky notes is something that it's very much effective, and even if I need to communicate, even if that person is not there, just go and paste it on the monitor, and it helped me several times. So I mean, that's all pretty much I use. Thank you. Yeah. So in terms of when I mentioned about the whiteboard at office, specifically I mean driving some of the account level innovation activities. So I need to keep track of what are the things that has been happening for tracking purpose, like what is my induction, and if I need to improve certain things. So if I put it on the whiteboard, I use kind of a thermometer, kind of an indicator to just gauge like where we are. And when as and when I see it, it reminds me constantly at every time. Okay, I mean we have to focus on certain things, and then if needed, like several times it helped me to call XYZ person to remind them on these activities. So that's one thing I helped by keeping the whiteboard. And as I said, like I used to place it in such a way, I mean it's visible. For example, I mean it will be opposite to me in my cubicle, so it constantly reminds me. And the sticky notes, pretty much any urgent, I mean even this, let's say if there is no connectivity at all, I mean on those areas, I mean sticky notes helped me to quickly pass on the message. And the mobile phones, yes, I mean at work and also on the personal front, as I said, like scanning a document, or even if I need to document some of the brainstorming sessions, something happened, I just take a photo of the entire whiteboard and then just share it with the team members. Even that helped me. So mobile phones is something I'm feeling these days it has been in productivity. Probably I cannot call some tool going early to office, that itself I mean improved my productivity. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Guna, working for Cognizant. So pretty much Chandru has mentioned most of the tools that we use day in and day out. I mean, I found one thing, mobile is being more productive because on the fly you can respond to the emails and so on. I mean, anything related to work, you can do it with your mobile. The latest smartphones are capable enough to do that. On my personal front, if you ask me, recently there were power shutdowns and all, right. It was in untiming, and also, I mean, I used to watch more movies or download more songs from internet. So the Wi-Fi internet won't be working because there is a power shutdown. When the power comes up, it doesn't sense whether my program has to start automatically to download things. So I mean, I use my MacBook a lot. So written some small automated scripts, and like which would go and check whether the internet is up or not, and then it used to connect to the net and then start downloading. So those are some tools I use.
Hey, I'm Ram. I work for TCS. I mean, my job is Six Sigma Master Black Belt. So, I mean, it's about productivity improvement or process improvement. So, I have a tendency to use all of those tools, whether they add value or whether they don't add value, recklessly, ruthlessly, and few have been successful and few have been not. So, I'll give you a list of tools. I mean, let me spend time on those that have not been successful, and I would like to know if someone else has found success using them. Say typically I'm a power user of Google Calendar, Google Tasks, and my Android phone helps me a lot in that. It keeps, I have an sync with, once the change happens there, it immediately reflects, and I don't hesitate to pay for the sync versions, because normally they're not available in trial versions, they're available only in full version. So I've used them a lot. And expense manager is one tool where every expense I make is recorded. And another tool which I use is Map My Run. So whenever I go for the run in the morning, it notes the, it tracks the route, my pace of running, and things like that. And it says, okay, you run better than yesterday, or you should run and even if I don't run for 2 or 3 days, it starts sending me reminder mails saying that you skipped your run for consecutive days and things like that. And the tool which I'm using now as we speak, Evernote, to record whatever, it helps me organize my memory. And there's one tool which I have not been very successful in using it, but I would like to use is the time recorder. So every activity, when it starts and ends, how much time have you spent in it, and how do you classify it? We normally in value stream mapping we have something called as value adding, value enabling, and non-value added. So what time was it? Was it red, amber, or green? So I've tried to do it, but somehow I'm not able to. I don't have the discipline to sustain it for more than a week. So it's on and off and on and off. So that's one tool which I would like to use, and another productivity tool which I use very successfully is Excel macros, because a lot of mundane and repetitive tasks can be done in one shot. And one tool, one technique which I've been longing to use is your, I don't know, maybe we should put a name to it. See, whenever you read something, okay, your memory, things decay in your memory at a certain pace. Say after 1 week you remember 20% of what you read, and after say 3 or 4 months completely it's forgotten. So there is an algorithm, there's a technique by which when you're about to forget the topic which you've read, if you revise it, then your memory becomes stronger. And the next revision cycle will be say a few months later. Again you revise it once more, again you revise it. So I'm planning to, there are certain tools available in the market, but they're pretty costly, but I'm trying to model something using Excel wherein you feed in whatever you read, and it's going to remind you on the day which you will have to read again, so that it doesn't go out of your memory. Because if you ask the first book which you read, you might remember the title and hardly 2 or 3 sentences about that book, but there's a lot more that you can remember, if you recall correctly. Yeah, there is an algorithm available. I forgot that. No, but it is there in my Evernote. I'll dig it out and let you know. It's a very, very interesting. There are tools available which work on that algorithm. It was very. Yeah, depends on the individual. See. But if you see, the first recall will be after a week, and the second recall will be maybe after a month. Third recall will be sometime around a year, and fourth and fifth recall it will go 25 years, because your memory would have retained the information. Since you revise, the same information is reinforced on your memory. So I'll give you the name.
We should best use it in classrooms. Yeah? People would remember history and all those boring subjects.
No, especially for people who are preparing for
civil services.
Civil service exam. It's really vast. They read so many things, and it helps to recall it at frequent intervals. And again, it should not be overdue.
Precisely. I was just about to come to that.
That's why your frequency will reduce as you. That's why I said when you go to the third or fourth or fifth revision, the number of the time difference between the fourth and the fifth will be much higher than the second and the third.
Okay, can I go to what's your background? What's what have you studied before you came to this?
I'm a computer science majors, engineering.
Bachelor degree.
Bachelor degree.
So you have been to a school phase. Would you want to remember the biology stuff you studied or the history stuff you studied?
Yeah, I would want to.
You would want to?
I would want to.
Wow.
Hi. Yeah, this is Arun here from TCS. I've been with TCS for the last 10 years. I've been involved in knowledge management activities throughout my career, though I've been working in various groups within TCS. I use productivity tools for various purposes, one from a personal perspective and also for the kind of work that I do within the organization. From a organizational role perspective, I get involved both in solutioning, delivery as well as sales, right? So if I start from sales, where we all need to prepare a lot of these presentations and present it to the customers. We all shamelessly flick some of at least the images and stuff like that, either from the internal knowledge management portals or whatever, or externally, right? We shamelessly use sometimes and see how we can actually apply some of these concepts and put in our cases and sell it to the customer, right? So I think I use a lot of these screen grabber tools that are available. I use only Mozilla, not IE anymore, right? And I make sure that I make my team also use only Mozilla or Chrome, right? Precisely for the reason because you have extensions and plugins available. I know that you have plugins and stuff available in other browsers, but Mozilla, if you look at go to the marketplace, you have immense plugins and extensions available. Right from, and in fact, I also use some of these. For example, my team develops a lot of these IT applications supporting various processes that I get involved in, right? So right from Wiseflow to your Firebug to some of the plugins like Handle and so on and so forth. So these are used by the developers. For example, my team works on building applications on Ruby on Rails or Java, right? So if it is Java, I make sure that people use some of the, for example, no longer is the time where we have checklists and get people to actually review the code through a checklist. It doesn't work, right? The effectiveness of the review process is no longer good. So you have a lot of these automatic review enablers where patterns are getting embedded, and you have those available as plugins which can be plugged in your development environment like Eclipse or so. So there are Hajar tools available in Eclipse marketplace itself, right? So I make sure that people use some of those tools. One is I myself do the review through that and ensure that my team also does that. What this will ensure is it improves the personal productivity as well as the group productivity when a team of people work for a common objective, right? So this is from a development perspective, right? Across the SDLC life cycle, for each of these phases, there are tools which helps improve. One is from a value perspective, you can do it faster and you can do it better, right? So that's one. So from a personal perspective, I collaborate a lot, both internally as well as externally. So I use a lot of these RSS. I browse a lot of these sites, but it's difficult for me to spend a lot of time going to each of these sites. So I have an RSS subscription. I use blog lines for that. I've been using that for quite some time. And if I see some similar like-minded people, I take their OPML, and then I guess most of you know what is an OPML. So it's just that you can share the subscription through an OPML. It's just an XML file. And once I actually put it in, I get to receive the same subscription that my peers who are like-minded that are mine also. So I don't need to go and then manually go and subscribe each of those sites which my friends or my like-minded people have subscribed to. So I use a lot of this. I use Digo, which is a social annotation tool. I used to use Dr. Watson, which used to help me prepare presentations. It's a lightweight tool. What it does is you can go and then configure the tool, where you can say what are those sources which are likely both in your desktop, in your machine, as well as on the internet, right? For example, in SlideShare and these. So as and when you make presentations, what this will do is it's got a lot of AI inbuilt to it. Before you go ahead and then it will automatically predict what the next slide that you're likely to do and pre-populate the contents from the various sources that you had already configured. Sometimes there's some noise also, so there's a lot of enhancements and intelligences which are getting pumped up as part of the updates from these guys. It's still in trial version and it's in perpetual beta. A lot of other tools available in the marketplace from the same concept, but it's worthwhile pondering into that. It's called as Dr. Watson. Watson. So
that is Windows diagnostic.
Yeah, but this is really good because it helps you prepare that presentation. It is kind of embedded in the way you actually work. And there are some competitors where there's also, based on what you actually do, there's a system learning also that can take place. So I think if you want to develop some kind of a tool for your organization, I think you take that concept, embed adjacent concepts and build it as an overall solution package which is required for the role, right? So it helps in the role enablement process within the organization as such. Apart from that, everything else like Skype and things to collaborate, I use a lot of Dropbox. Though there are some security concerns and stuff like that within my organization, I prefer that being really comfortable to share files and stuff like that. I used to use box.net, but I think now Dropbox is really comfortable. And NetWide.
between all the things around embedded
Hello. My mic, yeah. Okay. Sure. Lately, we got to undergo a training called Lean Startup at our organization, where they taught us a tool like, it was the MVP approach is what we learned over there. And that was pretty interesting. Before this, we used to try so much, and at the end of the work, we used to find that we failed or it didn't work. So in this MVP, it was much easier, where we took it in a very chunked manner, small deliverables at a small time. Yeah. MVP is nothing but minimum viable product, where you don't have to spend so much money or time to develop it. It is it is a working code or a working model or a fine end product that you can see and feel, but it doesn't have all the functionality and the features you would like. For a designer, you will just draw a paint screenshot and then show it. This is how it will look, or you code it in HTML and show this is how it's going to look. So it doesn't have the entire working of it, but it will have the functionality that you want. Yes, it is a usable product. For instance, it will not have the login pages, but the core functionalities are developed first, so you get to feel about it. So that was very effective for us, and we've been into publishing for some time. We used to do publishing tools, then a lot of reviews. There is a new tool called the iBook authoring tool. I think with that, from iTunes, anyone can become a publisher. You just go and explore the iTunes product. It's called iBook authoring tool. It was released this January. Last year it took us like 6 to 8 months to do a book. This time it took us just 2 months to do the book. If you're a designer with great expertise, I think you'll finish it in a week. I was able to do my small content, sir, is that mostly the content is the major chunk of your work, which already goes. But the designing, what happens is, you can't do live changes. It gets frozen, it comes as PDF. When you send these iBooks, they can edit it in the iBook itself and send it back. That's what happened. And of course, we work for the innovation group, so Post-it becomes our banking way to remind ourselves of what to do or to-do list. So Post-it is the final one I had to say.
So, I'm Pavitra from Cognizant Innovation Group. Okay, so like Ramya said, Post-it, we are very much dependent on Post-it note. Okay, so first I started with something like, these are things that I followed in my work. Okay, the colored sticky notes software available. I'll have like 4 or 5 different colors and a lot of things will be there. So I'll delete it or move it to a done list once I do something. But there will be some remaining for even months. Okay. So that will become my priority the next month, most probably. Okay, and also the physical Post-it notes, and I do a lot of notepad tracking, like how I do it. I just do a normal tick mark and carry forward the undone tasks the next day or next week when I come up with a new list. Okay, and Microsoft OneNote, I started using it late. Okay, so I'll prioritize 3 things like to-do list, tactical to-do list, high, medium and low priority. So I'll see, like based on the time, I'll finish off some of the high, medium and keep low unmarked for a very long time. Okay, and also there is a feature of integrating that with Outlook. So it will also have Outlook reminders of flags to it. Okay, and recently I underwent an internal workshop where Priya Rajan talked about calendar analysis, where you can just come up with, okay, if you just think of the tasks that you do for a month, half of the thing or at least 80% of the tasks will be repetitive. So just do a calendar analysis. Okay, 8 to 9. What are the tasks that you're spending, and look at the areas where your energies are getting lost or where you're spending your efforts unwantedly, which can be delegated to others. Okay, so just try to find out the area and delegate tasks. And one more thing I learned is, you should always learn to say no for some things. Okay, that I never do, and my to-do list keeps on adding, and I'll be looking at the list, I'll not even feel like working. Okay, so today is the first time I said no or tentative to one of the meeting invite. I had an on-site meeting this evening, and I thought like, I've not taken part in last 2 or 3 K community meets. I thought today somehow I should make it, and I said no. Okay, and yeah, the appointments in Outlook calendar and the meeting invite, it's like part and parcel of our life. And somebody said whiteboard, and I have also seen in some of the account teams where the flipboards are placed. Okay, so it's like where they keep track about the daily deliverables. It's like psychologically it will set in kind of competition and make people to put a tick mark there very soon. Though they don't realize about the real big picture, they'll somehow try to complete the deliverables on date or deadline. Okay, oh, that team has completed or that module has completed. We should be also completing it. Okay, we don't have to wait for a end of the day mailer to know all these things. As and when you complete it, just go put a tick mark. Somebody who crosses will see it might trigger them to complete it faster as well. Yeah, group whiteboard. Okay, and so there are some of the productivity tools that we'll use on the floor. We don't keep track of all these things. And mobile phones for personal appointments predominantly we use it. And SharePoint calendar or the announcements or the calendar where like we can make use of that for, it's visible for everybody in that particular SharePoint who are part of it. So they'll get to know about it and all those things. And for reading, recalling, somebody said. So I have a habit of creating some of the excerpts based on the reading. A simple Microsoft Word document or a one-page document. Yeah, that's pretty much about it.
Thank you. Thanks. This is Gopal from Cognizant. I work with the knowledge management team in Cognizant, taking care of requirement analysis, taking evangelization and so on. And one of the main productivity tool is my notebook. So every night before going to bed, I just take my notebook, put the date, and then put bubbles of what work I have to do, and including the meetings. So just to burst the bubbles after it's done, actually. So the work is done, you just take my pen and scratch it out. But the problem is always this page is full. Every time I take it, okay, still work is remaining. Just you have your notepad or, and your calendar outlook. This is one of my most productive thing which has been there for the past maybe 10 years. I've been following. This has really helped. I've tried boards. I've tried several tools which many of you have discussed, but it does not work well for me. Post-it also I've tried. But this works best for me, and some of the things I use my mobile. I have very old style mobile only, but I use it very effectively for storing bank account numbers and reminders for servicing the vehicle or insurance reminders and so on. I keep this, so it really works for me, this old model. So these are the two main tools which I use. And
Gopal, someone will steal your mobile phone if you start mentioning bank account numbers.
Yeah, I know that, but actually some of the things I was about to talk about, I think Chandru or somebody talked about the memory thing actually. Ram talked about the memory thing. Actually, I strongly feel that support the fact that if you have a very strong memory, you can be very, very productive actually. And for that matter, what I do is ensure that every time I call important phone numbers, I don't use the directory, I type the number. For example, my dad's number, wife number, I type it so that every time I know it by memory, and do the same for my colleagues in my team also. I know their IDs by heart. So suppose I'm out, I don't have Outlook in front of me and I want to tell their IDs, I know it by heart, especially my supervisor ID. So, because we always tend to forget it. And what I also do is in my notebook, I write the important bridge numbers and passcodes here, keep it ready so that they don't have to access anything to really log on to a bridge. So some of these things I do because I feel that if you memorize or if you write down, it will stay in your memory for quite a long time. And that is really productive stuff. And one of the main thing which I feel is that if you certain principles and concepts can actually make you more productive. For example, at home, a place for everything in its place. That principle, if you really follow, I really feel that it will help you a lot. No, actually, she doesn't follow actually. So but the fact that she takes leveraging my I make sure that things are in place. So at the end of the day, night, when you go to bed, make sure things are arranged and then Yes, I make sure that it is there in the thing, because most often we spend a lot of time in searching for something. Especially in my desktop also, I make sure every document I receive through email, I name it properly, put it in the folder. Even if I don't have time, put on desktop. End of the day, night, before going to bed, I'll clean the entire desktop and put in the folders. And name the folders and files in a manner so that I don't have to search actually. And as a research scholar also, I used to what to do is, when I download a paper, I put the author name and title and journal paper so that quickly we can get it back. think Outlook calendar. Yeah, I just want to mention last point. Actually, this is the clue which I got from Rachi, one of our things. That is, normally in Outlook calendar, the meeting invites will be all formal. But what Rachi does is she puts a personal thing also in the calendar. Like I want to go to a housewarming or a Graha Pravesham, she puts that in calendar. So what happens, you won't forget it. Like there's a wedding. Normally what happens, the wedding invite will be there in the home, but it won't be there in your system. So it'll be 6 o'clock. 7 o'clock I have to go for this function. Like so include that also into the Outlook calendar. Thanks.
Hello everyone, I am Kaushik from TCS Innovation Lab. Few tools I would like to mention are I used to try out this Reminder Fox. It's an add-on that comes with Mozilla. For a while I tried using this GNU cache for one thing is like the reading this PDFs and all. I recently came up with this Mart View which will allow you to flip through the pages and read. I thought, for me that makes my reading more interesting than scrolling through a PDF and stuff. Mart View, M-A-R-T. So it allows me to flip through the pages of the PDF and stuff. And one tool which I look forward is a better bookmark manager would help me really better to organize instead of just the folders and stuff. That's it.
I work for Cognizant. Part of a knowledge management team. Few things which I have started doing that really help me is in the beginning of the month there are few things which we do, right? So I know that at least in every week there is some induction training which I need to do. Get that set in your calendar. So every week there will be one time which I set ahead to remind myself that needs to be done for you kind of. So 2 days before I send the invite to everyone so that people come. So you not only ensure that your calendar is blocked, you ensure that others also have some time to accept this invite. That's one thing which I do. Second thing is the early morning when I come. This has been definitely effective. On my board, I start writing on prioritizing what is the task I have for the day, and of course look into my calendar. If my calendar is free, start blocking your calendar with that task so that you know that your calendar is free, but these are your priorities, and that comes up pop up in your calendar so that no one else comes and blocks your calendar also. It's one that way people understand that you are busy kind of. That's one thing which has been very effective. Apart from that, apart from these two calendar things, every day I come and before seeing all my mails, 10 to 15 minutes, spend yourself time to read something. That gives you definitely a very good productivity throughout the day. You take any topic, need not be your knowledge management topic. Just take not news. News also these days doesn't make you happy to do things. So just take any of these topics, spend 10 to 15 minutes to analyze and read yourself. That gives definitely a very good energy to your brain and makes you much more productive. Today there was one specific article on Harvard Business Review, making creative, how do you make creative work? Very good article where this is a part of the analysis says that if you spend some time before you start off your work on some effective thing, then that effect is seen on your daily work. It can be your work at home which gets impacted at your office, or what you do at office, that 10 to 15 minutes. And always, at least till down the line I have seen, you come early to the office. That's a very good effect. Even if you come 9 o'clock is your office, you see people coming only at 9:30 or 10 o'clock. That half an hour or 1 hour time for yourself makes a lot of difference on your work you do and also the whole day productivity. I've seen that definitely. I know a lot of us we are not able to make it. That's a different thing, but that does really help. That's all I have.
I have one question. I have one thing. Just a second. One thing. You said that you should focus sometimes, work on something else than on what is there on your plate, which gives you a good thing. This precisely resetting your brain to a blank state. Not exactly blank, but it gives you a it is not loaded. You ensure that thing happens. So when we do all these tools to manage our time, basically we are loading ourselves up. Okay, yeah, all right.
I'm Vijay Balaji. I'm actually, I think, an odd man out here. But I'm not connected to IT anyway. I'm a freelancer. I'm an academician. I'm a consultant. I train people. So I make a lot of presentations actually. So one or two things probably I can see. I use internet for a long time. Two things I do. I actually take time off from Facebook and Twitter once a week, compulsorily, which has been very productive for me. Okay. On Wednesday I go off from Twitter. On Fridays I go off from Facebook and also emails actually. So which actually has helped me in actually doing more. Second, I keep many files and folders where actually one folder I have for pictures, one folder I've got for links, one folder I've got for YouTubes, etc. Where again for specific topics I keep separate folders. So as and when I find something interesting, I put them there, and so that it helps as a repository for me when I make a presentation. So these are some small things which I think down the line I may add something. Thank you.
I personally do to increase my productivity, as madam said about reading. Unfortunately, I don't have a very good reading habit. But what I do is like I listen to a music which is basically pumps me up. Okay, it puts me in a mood, and I listen to a very fast music. So when I start working with the music, automatically the things keep moving very fast. For at least for initial 1 hour, then I take off my headphones, and then that effect still continues for another 1 hour. So maybe 2 hours. Yeah, that also helps to learn a lot of it.
Yeah, sure. At the start. See, so for me the productivity is primarily about focus. And so when I define what I want to do, and it takes a lot of time to decide what exactly I want to do. So once I decide, then it is an unconditional love towards it, no matter what happens. Then everything that I do, smell, hear, meet with people, align with anybody, reading anything, but automatically my brain and mind works only towards looking at those pieces, that dots that connects me to that end goal. It's very simple. It's right from the college days, that's how I mean. In school days, I failed in schools and I never studied, but I never feel bad. But when in college, I said that I want to join Wipro as a one goal. And I started reading anything related to landing me and Wipro for almost 3 years. But actually the actual subject comes only in the 5th semester. So 6 months before I can start applying for a job, but I started during the 1st semester. So then what kind of books that you read, what kind of subject that you read, what you think, what you do on a computer those days, how many hours you spend, everything related to that. So then that's point number 1, focus. So then when I come to focus, then the next thing that I need to do, how much time I can spend towards working on towards the end goal, right? I'm not a kind of lonely person. I still play cricket, I chat with people and watch movie. I do everything that a normal human being does, but in spite of that, only thing I can sacrifice is I can spend less time sleeping, right? So then I take, instead of sleeping for 8 hours, 5, sleep only for 4 hours, and then I have plenty of time. Within that time, I don't plan at all. I'm trying to do, because one day I spent 1 week looking for shops in Singapore, looking for a Franklin Covey a planner. Basically, if you look at Stephen Covey, he has a lot of tools. And I was looking for that, I bought it, and once the discipline comes into my mind, then it gets dusted, and the diary goes there, but it's the plan and the concept is there in the mind. Either you say importance versus priority, high priority and high importance, low priority, low importance, everything then it's in your mind. Then mind automatically, reorganizes unconsciously in whatever that you want to do now, and what is the thing that you can do later. But I never never wanted to be successful in the area. You see, 9 to 5 I want to do this. So 9 to 10 and 10 to 10:30 I want to do this. 10:30 to 10:45 I want to do this. I never done that throughout my life. If I say 10 o'clock I feel like sleeping, I'll go to bed. I'm talking about 10 a.m. not 10 p.m. And if at 11 o'clock I feel bored, and if I say that I have to watch TV, I watch TV. So ensure that at the end of the day, I complete what needs to be done. Completely flexible in terms of when exactly I have to do that particular thing. So then again back to the question, the focus, the high priority, everything connect back to the focus. Is it really something that it takes you to the end goal? Then it comes to the top of my mind. The rest of the things goes to the bottom. So of course, initially I had the difficulty in saying no, but later on I very clearly says, this is not my area. Talk to somebody. I connect people to something else. Another interesting thing is what happens is I do multitasking. So when I do multitasking, if I want to watch Arnab Goswami, because for communication skills, I also ask my son to watch Arnab Goswami, and that's an excellent person in terms of what kind of information he has in his mind, and a lot of things you can learn from him. But if I want to watch Arnab Goswami, I don't watch it dedicated 1 hour. So I watch, I need only here, then I can start working on my PowerPoint presentation. I can even start writing a program while watching Arnab Goswami. So I can do Facebook while watching some debates or some programs in TV. And similarly, a lot of things I can do multitasking. Suddenly I'm not getting an idea. Suppose I put something, I want to do something before 11 o'clock, I'm not getting an idea. Then I just close my laptop, I take a walk on the terrace. While walking, at least my exercise time is taken care. That's why I don't do exercise in a particular time period. It's not exactly like 5 to 6. Sometimes I walk 10:30 under the sun. Sometimes at 10:30 in the night, sometimes 6 o'clock in the morning. But ensure that one day I need to walk 1 hour. Either I split it half an hour each or 45 minutes and 15 minutes. And make sure to some extent that I walk to a certain extent, take care of my body. And during the time I completely think or talk to somebody on the phone, getting ideas on the business. Then coming to the next one, I read a lot. I'll skip that point a little bit too long. I read a lot. At the end of the day, it makes me all the information that I read from various books. And I went to the level of, actually the last 4 or 5 years, I have not bought any books. I just want to cool down on the reading. Completely, I stopped reading because I read blogs and so on, bits and pieces. I don't read books, but still I read and things like that. The one interesting things which I would say is the turning point in the way I communicate, in the way I present, the way I conduct meetings and a lot of things, it's a concept called mind mapping. In Singapore Institute of Management, I went through a 3-day program on that, paid program, 3-day program on mind mapping by Tony Bouchon. And at the end of the mind mapping, I bought the tool for $160. I used the tool for almost 2 years. All my business ideas, 1 year before I started business, all my business ideas were captured in the tool called MindJet. Okay, and after a year, I have not even opened up the the document. The document is still there in my things .mmp file. Now the software is not there in the laptop, but idea is there in the mind. Then I use a lot of idea books. Idea books. I take my cycle, go to the river in Singapore, sit there in the river, and start documenting. And then one day, even the traffic police started, stopped for 10 minutes. What this guy is doing near the river is nobody there, and then he is moved on kind of thing. So I spent 200, 300 hours in coffee shops, drinking coffee and capturing ideas. But after that, I never visited the idea book. Never visited the idea book because by the time you document, a lot of things, more thing has come into your mind. So always what is there in your mind is more than what you have documented. The documented I see is only as one dot connecting to the end result, but that's not a complete result by itself. So it is only a process. Then after that, the idea book is a completely useless in my case. Then the memory techniques. And I learned about memory techniques is how the interrelated objects can be connected through an animations, videos, and emotions of positive emotions, negative emotions, and use that. I'm very, very bad in memorizing data. Right? If today I quiz, I'll be last. If you ask me to think, come out of the solution, I may be good. But in terms of data, what is the capital of India? I may be thinking 5 seconds. What is the capital of India? So I'm many times I ask my wife, who is this lady? And even the popular heroine, many times I ask my wife, who is this girl? Who is this lady? And I'm very, very bad in memorizing data, but I'm very good in memorizing emotions. That's where my point is, in any positive emotions, even when I was a child, understand exactly my uncle, what exactly you said to this person, how you handle that. I tell them even today, but I don't memorize the dates and all the abstract data and so on and so on. So that's what I picked to do what I want to do. I never wanted to be, because I rely on computer for my memorization of data. I put it on a spreadsheet, I can do a search within few seconds, it's going to be giving me all the data that I am looking for. If I don't know what is Singapore has a capital? I don't care. I don't feel guilty. I'll go to the Wikipedia something, find out what is the map where the Singapore. I don't even care about where Calcutta in the map. So once I start traveling, then I enjoy, because I don't put the information honestly in my mind. Once I start traveling to Calcutta, then I look at the map and look at the people, what kind of language they speak, and this, and then start reading books and so on. And I need to be. End of the day, what matters is for me is an experience matters more than theory. And 6 thinking hats. Next revolution. The 6 thinking hats is something, it is not, yes, exactly a personal productivity, but more than a personal productivity is actually a group productivity. I tried to use 6 thinking hat. I become a fan of, after Stephen Covey is my first model. 7 habits of highly effective people. Even today I try to start with an end in mind. But luckily that's what I did even before I started reading the book. So then it became a natural habit for me, like I start with an end in mind. So without an end I will not do anything. So then 6 thinking habits tells you exactly wonderful common sense how you go about conduct a collective thought process, collective thinking. How do you converge those things together? I try to apply those techniques in the community platform. So when I'm driving a community in NASCOM or some other things, when people start wearing a black hat, that's the concept of black hat. I tell them, please don't wear a black hat now. You wear only a white hat. You just say exactly what are the ideas. Then later on the second step we discuss about which is good or which is bad. Otherwise what will happen, the idea gets killed at the early stage. As I mentioned, I never do a calendar. So look at all the things, the information that you gather, focus. So now 10 to 12 years back I wanted to become an entrepreneur. No matter what happened, what kind of struggle you go through, you do only that. But during that time I apply everything. Mind mapping I apply, 6 thinking hats apply. If Dorai says something negative, I capture it, try to fix it, the problem. Somebody gives a bad, create a product, show to somebody. I'm looking for both positive feedback and negative feedback and come back and fix it. So everything is become, to some extent, is unconscious, right? And I try to use Outlook and putting checklist and so on. It doesn't work for me. But in my mind, I know exactly. If I take a model, I can travel because of the mind mapping technique, not because of time management. Because of mind mapping, I can travel through one model. I can tell exactly when, not the date. I can tell you my person there. I told you this feedback, 2 months back, not the exact date, but you are not done it. But that's coming is because of the mind map. So I can connect. Even in the presentations, I never good at recording my speech, come back and spitting it out exactly the same way. Never done that. Sometimes that suddenly one story will get missed out. I mean, blank mind. Suddenly, luckily, that second link will work and pick up another story and start communicating the story. And that's why people say that, Lakshman, I watched it 10 times a knowledge management presentation. Not even a single time you repeat it. I mean, there will be overlap, but something that I don't do a stereotype presentation. That's why very bad in memory. Focus on thinking. My emotions and the passions is what matters. Then everything else is unconscious factor. But of course, I use the tools only for actual digitization of content, which is PowerPoint presentations. And I use our own tool. Even our own tool is built based on all these principles.
Very interesting topic. Yeah. With respect to my personal productivity tools, it's a controversy to Lakshman. In fact, I used to have my daily, weekly, monthly, whatever calendar invites, so which pops me up on the respective time so that I can pick up my respective task at that moment, whatever thing that I need to do. Everybody will have our daily or weekly, monthly presentations or documentations, whatever something have to be done for sure. So by putting that in my calendar invite, that makes much more organized. That's one thing. And one good thing that I will do always is I used to keep on organize my system folders. That is very key thing. In the sense, so as we grow in our day-to-day projects, we used to get new things. Putting the documents or whatever necessary knowledge in the respective folders, that will help us to fetch it at right time with less time. So that is one good thing that I will always do. The same thing that I will follow in my system as well as in my Outlook as well. Yeah.
I hope most of you will be using Outlook notes. So that's simple thing on sticky notes. So where some phone numbers, some key contacts, whatever it is, URLs, various things that we can put it in both Outlook notes as well as the favorites folder. That will save a lot of time. Yep. Then apart from this, I'll try to avoid as many unnecessary chit chats. We try to use whatever the discussion it is, try to use it more productive even with my friends during the discussions, even if it is during lunchtime or coffee break. Everybody will have day-to-day problems, right? So we can discuss during the coffee break or lunchtime, whatever it is. We can gain some knowledge how they manage this similar kind of situation, and I try to apply the same principle in my problem as well. One couple of other unrelated to this, but I feel it is more relevant to this topic is maintaining good friends. Our relevant thought process friends, where they will give a lot of ideas. Okay, that is one thing. And apart from this, physical fitness is very, very important for all of us. Yeah, do make it. It's a humble request from my side. You take care for your physical fitness, automatically your productivity will improve. There is no doubt about it. And try to involve in social responsibilities activities. I'm involved in, associated with a lot of NGOs, Bhumi, Nilal, around some 5 to 10 different organizations, and I'm organizing a lot of events in my organization for tree plantations, watering plants, going for an orphanage, so which will bring a lot of happiness in you, and basically that will improve a lot of productivity within ourselves. And apart from this, you will get very good friends. You believe it me or not, the people whom you will meet in the social responsibility activities, you will get, you can't see such good friends. We are all working in a very tough life, right? So if you see those people, their thoughts, the helping tendency is too good. So these kind of things will definitely improve our productivity. That's my thought. Yeah. Thank you.
I cheated a bit. I let all of you go first so that I can make lots of notes, and each one of you reminded me about a bunch of things I do, so makes it much easier. So I have a long list, and I'll try to make it. I'll reel off a lot of names, but of the tools, but I'll tell you the threaded connection. So I'll go back from where I am to where I was earlier, and then do bits of random walk. So I tweet a lot. I think I crossed like 14,000 tweets or something like that. So I'm a spammer by that sense. And lots of times I thought, I should not tweet so much, and so I'd stop for 3-4 days, and people would ask me, what happened to you? I mean, we haven't seen any tweets from you. So I said, okay. So I started out, I got into Twitter first, and then I thought people are tweeting like saying I'm having coffee, having a sandwich, and I'm in the waiting in the airport. So this is kind of a boring tool. It just spams everybody with lots of useless information. Turned it off. Then I was in, I think I tell this story several times, but I was in Chicago, and then the Bombay terrorist attacks hit. And then I said, I wanted news, and I said, Bombay, I lived there, and I knew Taj. So I was searching for information. I went to samachar.com, nothing. I mean, some stale news. I went to CNN, stale news. Then I went and Googled it, and it came and said that there is a Twitter hashtag for Bombay terrorist attacks, and I followed the hashtag, and the information is pouring like 200 tweets per minute. I couldn't keep it up. Of course, a lot of them were repeats, but there was a tweet that said, here is the picture of Taj burning posted on Flickr, for example. That is when I realized that this Twitter is something much more than just, people, talking about their coffee and, whatever movie they liked and all that. So I said, okay, I want to do some research on Twitter, and then, so a lot of my social media involvement is doing some amount of research, but I also try out a lot of experiments. Then I started thinking, why am I bookmarking things? I can as well tweet. So now it has gone out to the system. Others have this. I used to use a lot of social bookmarks, like, Delicious. That was my favorite before. Then if I just put a bookmark in my own, it's only for me. But if I tweet it out, there is very interesting things that happen. One is that it's a bookmark available to a lot of people outside, whoever reads my tweet. It's available to me, and then what happens is people come back and say, have you checked this? Have you checked this? So my bookmark is a bait that goes out and catches fish for me in lots of times. So it works as a very interesting thing. No, I just now tweet, and so bookmarks are all like, I've not moved to any other bookmarks. Twitter is my bookmarking thing. So you'll notice something interesting. When you go to Twitter and then look for your own tweets, you'll not find tweets more than 3 days. So I said, this is a big problem. I have like 14,000 tweets. I want to have all of them. What should I do? I looked around. I found in GitHub a small Python program called Backup My Tweets. So I went and downloaded it and ran it. It'll go and get you all your tweets. I think it doesn't get you the first initial maybe couple of thousands, but it gives me everything, puts it in a SQLite database. So then I said, hey, if I can use this, why can't I use it for doing other people's tweets? So I have a favorite list of about 20-30 people. So I put it in a batch file, and every day I run it. It goes and grabs all the tweets from some of the Sukumar's tweets, for example. I don't get to read all of them because I found that asynchronous reading is better than synchronously reading, because you waste a lot of time. I always believed, I think my grandfather was a teacher, early in life he told me that if you write down things, you'll remember them better, and I never believed it, but I started building a habit. This is a notebook. I have about 12 of them at home, and I just carry it everywhere I go. I write down, sometimes I write them as, like lists. Sometimes, I draw things like mind maps. This is my thinking tool. So this is the mind mapping I read, about 10-15 years ago in some book called Accelerated Learning for the 21st Century, and I said, oh, this is a cool idea. And then instead of making a list, you have a tendency to look at it from top to bottom. If you do it as a mind map, it's spatial in nature, so your mind works very, very differently, kind of thing, and association of ideas. So it'll be cool. Sometimes I do experiments, like when I go and teach students, I tell them to draw a mind map, and I start out by saying happiness. Everybody should say one word related to happiness, and I go draw the mind map, and then I suddenly at the end of it, all of us have a better idea of what happiness means than anything else. It's a beautiful group thinking tool, and it's very good for doing that. So going back to the writing, so once I started writing, I said, hey, how much of what I write is private? And most of it is not. So I said, okay, I'm going to blog about it so that I'll remember it. So blogging does something more than tweeting, is that you take an idea and then you think about it for a few minutes, you write down a couple of paragraphs, you put a link to where you read this from, and so that remains in memory for a long time. So I just crossed 1,000 blogs. I've been blogging since 2006, kind of thing. So that's one of my tools. I use different types of notebooks, like, I write physical notebooks, I write it in post-it notes, then I copy it back. I used a wiki for keeping notes for a while, then it got corrupted. Then a reason my latest tool is Evernote, mostly because it synchronizes across all devices. I take notes when I'm in conferences on my cell phone, it's on the web, it's on my desktop, I sync all of these kinds of things. I do, Evernote. It's free. There is a free version, and it's available on everything. So that is one. Then I started doing something like I talked about social bookmark. I use screen grabbers a lot, because when I see some really nice concept diagram that so there is one called Snagit. So it's tech. So I just go grab that screen, and I use it in a lot of presentations. So it goes into my materials folder, and I have all these diagrams and stuff like that, and so I use that. One interesting thing I found is that there is always, as a human being, you go between levels of thinking. Sometimes you're thinking at a very high level, sometimes you're thinking at a very low level, and then you want to move back and forth between these levels, because sometimes you want to zoom in and expand it, and sometimes you want to pull back and say, hey, what is the abstract version of this kind of stuff? So I started, I found that mind maps are a great way to do it also. So the nice thing about mind map is you can draw it and leave it and come back. There is a mind map. You can go back and then you can keep adding more things to it, kind of thing. In fact, there was a guy who maintained a service Like he would read every book and do a mind map, and he used to sell it. So books as mind maps, because this is how the association of concepts, and don't do it while reading the book by copying it, because you just copy it. You read a chapter, close the chapter, draw a mind map. In fact, I suggested this as a testing tool for students. Give a lecture, at the end of it, ask the students to write a mind map. What stuck in their mind, what was left out. See, if everybody left out a concept, that means the teacher didn't do a good job. If only a few students left out, then it's a very different kind of thing. I'm always interested in thinking tools and problem solving tools, because I notice that there are some very interesting examples. Let's say I just come and say, when I talk to students, typically I say something like, hey, 19 into 21 is 399. So I said 25 into 15 is 375, and 82 into 78 is 6,976 or something like that. So I said, I'm not a mathematician, I'm not doing any magic, I don't have great memory, but I'm fooling you. Tell me what it is. And this is how I basically test the students. And the reason I'm bringing it up here is that some students get it, some students don't get it, and they get it in incremental steps. They'll say, oh, if you add the last 2 digits, it always comes to 10. That is the first discovery they make. I said, great, let's go to the next step. I coined the problems, so I'm cheating them. It's always a plus b into a minus b is equal to a squared minus b squared. In one, it's 80 squared minus 2 squared. It's in other cases 20 squared minus 5 squared, or 30 squared minus 5 squared, that kind of stuff. So I said, if you think about it, its knowledge is, a plus b into a minus b is equal to a squared by squared. You learn very early in your life. The application of knowledge is that you see a pattern, you say, hey, this pattern fits into this, and then you reduce the problem. So there are a lot of problem solving techniques where you take a problem and convert it into another problem. So I'm very interested in those kinds of techniques. When I find something like this, I note it down. Like, for example, there's a paper on how to read mathematics. I grabbed it because it becomes difficult after some time to do that stuff. Nowadays I do a lot of presentations, and of course there is a lot of repetition in my presentations, because some of my favorite topics are 10 ways you can help students, or how to startup stories and those kinds of things. So I use SlideShare as a way of keeping the presentation, because it's also available to everybody. You go there and said, I'm making a presentation, people start taking notes. I said, don't worry about notes, all this is on SlideShare, you can go get it. And then normally it's linked, I give a link. Then I started getting these links, and people started asking me, can you send me this link, can you send me these links? And I said, okay, instead of doing this, I'll just go on a blog. I have a page where I put list of lists, and I put all these lists, and I have a resources page where I list all the resources, so that whenever somebody says, hey, I want Python learning material, I'll say, okay, go to Dorai me/Python resources. And I even remember addresses in a very funny way, and this is like the ultimate geekiest of things you can think about. There is a URL shortener called Bitly, which will comprise of Bitly. So I meet a lot of people at Coffee Day Adayar in Indiranagar. So I went to Bitly previous version, now they've taken it out, lets you customize those. So I said Bitly anyway you can remember. I said CCD Adayar is the customized Bitly URL shortener. So whenever somebody says, I say Bitly/CCD Adayar, I'll send them the link. They click on it, it'll take them to the CCD Adayar's site, they have the map, everything, so shortening shortcuts for these kind of thing. I used to go to Facebook once a week, because I thought it was again huge noise. Then what we did was I am part of several communities, Chennai Open Coffee Club, K Community, Chennai Geeks, which a couple of us started. And then I found that when you are in a Google groups, people spam a lot. They don't know each other. They'll say nasty things to people. You feel hurt sometimes. You don't know whom to moderate, whom not to moderate. So we said, okay, let's move it all to Facebook so that you know who this guy is. Somebody makes a comment, I click on his link, go to his thing and see where he is. He's a student, is he working somewhere, what kind of thing. So you know more about the people you are telling, so that you form the response appropriately. So Facebook, as far as I'm concerned, is a tool. In fact, I turned off all my personal tweets, and then my family complained that I'm just spamming them with too much of technical stuff. So I put all the family in one group, and I said, none of my Facebook posts will go to them. And so they are very happy now. So Facebook, I consider it as a tool. There is an interesting tool that I played around with a little bit when I was in US. We used to have this what is called argument maps. The way argument maps work is you say you're going to take a topic and then you're going to have a debate. There are pluses and minuses. For example, you are talking about are tools overloading your brain? Are tools good or bad, for example? So a bunch of people will say this is good for these reasons. A bunch of people will say this is bad for these reasons. Then for each one of these reasons there will be a pluses and minuses. So there is a debate graph in which you can do it. And it is there on the wiki, so you can go to debategraph.org. You can form arguments, and it's very logical way in which you can, talk about it. And I used to argue with myself, should I do this or not? These are the advantages. These are so I just go. It's basically another thinking tool. So there is I always wanted to write a book. And then I said, hey, I have these 1,000 posts. Why can't I write a book from these posts? And then I looked around and said, somebody must have already thought of this. Then I found a couple of tools that will convert blogs to books. So you just give them your blog address, they'll pull all your blogs, they'll create a book, which you can go and edit it and reorder it and title it and classify it and all that. So I played around with it, I never published it. And then I said, hey, what happens if it's not blogs, if collaboratively a bunch of us want to do it? So I found this thing called the wiki books. What wiki books do is you can take a bunch of wiki pages and turn it into a book. And there is a professor who was teaching XML, and he did this with his students, and they wrote a book together. And you can just go on Google wiki books and you'll find out. I was a big wiki fan for a while, and I went and find this C2 wiki, which was very, very interesting. And then I saw this thing called Programmer's Journal. He said all engineers maintain very clean documentation of all the thoughts, all the experiments they did, what came out, what worked, what didn't work, that kind of thing. How can people have that discipline? So I went to Programmer's Journal and I copy it and give it to people and try to keep it like, why did I make this decision? I could have gone with this or this, and why did I choose this? That assumption may be wrong 3 years later, so I may want to revisit it kind of thing. So I have a Programmer's Journal, which is just text thing. I have what is called an idea log. It exists in several places. There is an idea log on my Evernote. There is an idea log. There is a wiki called idea log, there is a desktop wiki, which is pretty good. And the reason for ideas is not because I'm going to do anything with them, but lots of times some students come and say, I want some projects, and then here is the list of ideas. You can take it and then you do it from there kind of stuff. But the interesting thing about idea logs is not all ideas are good, but ideas are great stepping stones for other ideas. So when you have an idea, it will trigger another idea, which will trigger another idea, and then in the end you end up with like combination of different ideas kind of stuff. I'm surprised that nobody mentioned the GTD tools. GTD is a book called Getting Things Done, and they tell you how to organize your email. Email is the biggest overload that most of us have. How do you organize it in such a way that there are two sets of tools. One is the Stephen Covey tools, like there is a quadrant saying important and critical, like that kind of stuff, right? Urgent and important, not urgent, not important, that quadrant kind of stuff. So there are tools that will help you do that. I tried using them, but they didn't work because I'm not that organized for this. There's a great book called 18 Minutes that I think you should read. I won't talk too much about it. I didn't want to remember my passwords, so I came up with an algorithm. My algorithm is fairly simple. In fact, we had a debate about what are the password techniques people use. My algorithm is that, let us say that you like, Einstein. So you take some favorite person of your grandfather's name, your scientist, or whoever it is, some role model, and then you take the first few letters of the site and you mix it up with this, alternate it with this. Every site will have a unique password. You don't have to remember any of those. That word will be consistent. For example, if I go to, you don't have to remember Google, but if you go to site like abc.com, Einstein is E-A-B-I, that kind of stuff, and you intersperse it. It's a small mental map, but you'll be able to do that. So that way I don't remember any of my passwords. I go to all these sites and, that's a tool that I use. I like that place for everything concept. I get into a lot of problems with my wife because of this, because if I keep a cell phone in a certain place, I'll always pick it up and walk out to the door. But if I move it somewhere, sometimes I move it, sometimes my wife will take it and say, oh, what is this doing there? And she'll clean it up and it'll just go somewhere else, and I'll forget and walk out kind of thing. So I'm a place for everything freak, and that is a habit more than anything else. I don't read newspapers because I think they're depressing. I looked at them, I said if the news is good enough or bad enough, it'll get to me somehow. Either my wife will tell me if it's bad news, and somebody will tell me if it's good news. Oh, did you hear about this? And so I said, okay, forget it. I'm not going to do that. Every day I try to, and 90% of the time I do it, I got onto the treadmill for about 45-50 minutes. I have one at home. And that is when I listen to podcasts. And there is a whole, in fact, I have a list of podcasts. HBR IdeaCast is there, Harvard Business Daily. Wharton has a knowledge cast. There are a whole bunch of things that are related to my field, competitive intelligence and stuff like that. So it makes treadmill, getting on the treadmill not boring. So, you can get on there, you can be there 45 minutes, sometimes you're there for an hour because you're listening to somebody talking about some great stuff. The same thing I do when I used to take walks in beach. That was my favorite thing, but we moved away from Mandavali. I used to go to Marina every day and walk from end to end, and that's how I developed the podcast habit. I use Google Docs to share information with others. So I make a lot of lists. I'm a list freak. So for everything I said, okay, let's make a list and share it with a lot of people. They can update it. I tried one for some time, but it didn't really work. And so I'll end with two examples. There is something called Rescue Time that you can download it. It used to be free. I don't know whether it's still free or not. It'll tell you where you are spending time on the internet. And then it'll give you a summary that you can go and take a look at it. And then that's when I decided to turn off Facebook and Twitter for some time, and but it didn't work. Second thing is that if you really look at what I did, I am kind of an entrepreneur. This is my fourth startup, and this one I'm just a lone entrepreneur. I decided this by design. We started with a bunch of people. Later I decided that I'm just going to do it alone. We build products. I teach. I travel between US and India. So there are a whole bunch of these kinds of things. I can't physically be there with people for meeting. So we started using chat tools. And as we are doing chats, we built 5 products just through chatting and email. No physical meeting. So we started noticing something. We'll chat something. We'll say, oh, this specification, we should do it this way. And then this specification, we should do this. We should go investigate this and all that. At the end of it, we'll forget. So we actually, both of us were geeks. So what we did was, in the chat, we started marking it up like an XML markup. We'll say AI for, action item. It's for research, and, question for things to be verified. And then this friend of mine wrote a program that will take the chat log, it will run through it, it will separate it out, and it will nicely make 3 lists of things to do. What are the things to research, what are the things to question, and email it to all the guys who are there in the chat. And most of the time it was the 2 of us. We even thought of writing a plugin to do something like that. Mark it and click on AI and it will make it an action item. So the products that I have today, 2 products in our company, are both built because I was scratching an itch. I was doing some research on XML to early 2000, in 1990, and then I found that I had 300 bookmarks. I looked at it and said, boy, even if I go visit each page for 1 minute, it will take me 5 hours. So I won't be able to keep up. So we wrote a small tool that goes and checks the page, keeps a cache of the page, and then checks the next day when there is a diff set. If there is any changes, it just highlights it and then delivers the diffs to you. So I said, hey, this is cool. Somebody else must be able to use it, and we turned it, put it out as a product. We have over 1,000 users using it. It's been running for 11 years, and some of our subscribers are still there with us like 11 years because it's used for a variety of purposes. So sometimes you go and build yourself tools, and there are lots and lots of tools that you can build for making these things. I like this concept of writing small scripts to check whether those kinds of things. So I think we have lots of great information here. I don't even know whether I can get back and record all this stuff, but I'm definitely going to take a shot at writing a blog and distributing it. So we can open it up for questions. Sure. Imagine we couldn't have done it if we had a lot.
a big hand to Dorai for volunteering to volunteer. I think we had a great session. I think I also have 3 pages of ideas in my notebook. So we'll wait for Dorai's blog to read it, and I request Lakshman to please hand over memento to Dorai. Thanks one and all who came for this meeting. I hope you enjoyed the session, and we'll meet again in 31st edition next month. We will announce the topic also next time. Thanks a lot for coming. Thanks to Chennai Stream also for the